Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Tuesday, June 17th, 2025 meeting of the Candido County Board of Commissioners. Before we begin, of course, there was an unspeakable tragedy this last weekend involving the assassination of House Speaker Emerita Melissa Hortman and her husband, Mark. As well as the attempted assassination of Senator John Hoffman and his wife, Yvette. Political violence has no place in our society, and it's my hope that the better angels of our nature will prevail in this. Would ask everyone for a moment of silence. Thank you. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
My understanding is that we have two late additions to our agenda. One is a wake zone resolution, and the other involves selection of voting delegates for the NACO conference coming up. Would like to, with those two additions, I would request approval of tonight's agenda.
Also move.
Commissioner Dale Anderson moves. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Dwayne Anderson seconds. Discussion?
Where would you put them?
Those will go under the appointments,
Okay.
reports, calendar. Anyone else? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. At this time, I'd request approval of the consent agenda, which includes the June 3rd, 2025 County Board legal minutes, approval of the auditor's warrants and claims, and the approval of the human services warrants and claims, paying the bills, and approval of the June 3rd, 2025 closed session minutes. Is there a motion to, excuse me, would any commissioner wish to pull any of those items?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I so move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you. Commissioner Berg moves. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Commissioner Dwayne Anderson seconds. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. At this time, the next item we have up for business is the consideration of Resolution 2025-21 declaring a state of emergency for Candido County. And at this time, we'll ask Emergency Management Director Ace Bonema to come to the podium. Ace, good afternoon. You've had a busy weekend.
It's been busy. Good afternoon. Thank you. Ace Bonema, Director of Candido County Emergency Management. I don't know if I do have a little slide PowerPoint here. If IT could pop that up. Here today to seek your approval on Resolution 2025-21, declaring state of emergency for Candido County due to the recent storm events and flooding. This declaration starts the process of getting assistance from state of Minnesota, federal government, volunteer agencies active in disasters. On the screen, you can see the emergency management wheel there. The wheel shows preparedness, response, recovery, and mitigation. In this storm event, we are still in the response, hoping to get to the recovery phase that's started so far. There are different thresholds for qualifying for assistance. On the state side, that number is a little over $103,000 in public infrastructure. Federal side, that number is a little more than $206,000. You can see that we have County Road 20 shot from Wilmer area and then Raymond City Garage. Several parts of the county were affected. This is an early sheet that we use showing estimated rainfalls and some of the road issues faced by the county. And just going to zoom in on that a little bit to the southern part of the county, which appears to receive the most water. It also shows some of the initial impacted roads that Mel and his crew have had to deal with. So currently we've set up a hotline. This is primarily for unmet needs. That number is 320-214-6780. And I'd like to thank Sarah Carlson with Wilmer Area Community Foundation, Mike Home with Red Cross, Captain Jennifer with Salvation Army and her crew, and many others that are helping out. We're encouraging people who would like to donate or assist to check out the Wilmer Area Community Foundation's website. And at this point, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Do any of the commissioners have any questions for Director Bonema? Commissioner Imdek.
So, resolution 2018 did declare an emergency, which expired about 2:30 this afternoon or something like that. Is there, when would this declaration expire, or don't they ever expire?
I don't think that it expires. That resolution would stay in effect. It starts the process moving. We initially called Chairman Gardner to get that process started. It gives some flexibility, lets us call the state partners and stuff like that. And then basically that needs to be approved. We had 3 days to do that resolution, so. Yeah.
And you mentioned the damages to the public infrastructure, and I assume that's still going to be assessed as well for further damage, but it meets and exceeds both of those thresholds that you mentioned.
That's correct.
And in terms of the unmet needs, that relates to members of the general public who may have experienced adverse impacts during this most recent event. It's important for everyone to know that this hotline that is set up will do what exactly for those folks?
Well, mainly we're trying to find out what the needs are. We have had a couple of citizens that had to evacuate, are being put up in hotels right now with assistance from Salvation Army and others. We are giving out some cleaning kits if we can. A lot of it is just advice. Sometimes the only thing that we can say is it's tough to be a homeowner sometimes. The criteria for the Red Cross is 18 inches of water. Fortunately, we didn't get that, but at the same time, now we don't qualify for some of those things. However, there are some of these pockets, with the state and stuff as far as small business loans and other type of things that we need to start the process, but we're kind of in that preliminary phase of finding out exactly where the damages are. Red Cross can't even go into some of the areas to do their damage assessments because they just can't get there. Like the trailer court in Raymond is one example right now. So it's a process. It's the water's not going away right away, and this is going to outlast the water. So it's some work ahead of us.
I noticed one of the ditches in town is not going down anytime soon. If it is, it's going down only a little bit at a time. And the Community Foundation is involved in that. They have a fund that people can donate to, and it's and this is the only approved fund for this type of thing. Can you elaborate on that just a bit?
Yeah, we learned during the Raymond train derailment, I think there were 6 or so GoFundMe accounts, mostly out of state. And then we had people all over. So we're like, this is kind of our norm now. The Wilmer Area Community Foundation, they sit on what we call our long-term recovery committee, along with James Miller and some others. And so we're trying to funnel everything to this account because we know that it stays local, we can trust that source. And so we're trying to get that word out that, hey, don't be going to the GoFundMes and stuff like that, which take a little, even if they are legit, they're taking a little bit of money off the top for their needs, where here it's all going to the community. This might be for, it depends on the needs. I mean, we don't know if people are gonna have their HVAC systems or water heater issues again. And so it's kind of triaging the worst of the worst. Same as our hotline right now. We're helping wherever we can. Unfortunately, we can't help everyone and buy everybody new carpet, which would be really nice, but, so.
So if anyone wants to donate, they contact the Wilmer Area Community Foundation. And they can rest assured that any donations that go there are going to go specifically to the purposes identified.
That's correct.
And so they don't have to worry about giving it to some scammer.
Exactly.
Commissioner Emdek.
Thank you. Just to be clear, based on, the conversation between the chair and you, Ace, does that mean that Salvation Army and Red Cross are not qualified entities for?
Certainly not.
Assisting this?
You can certainly donate to those, and they're great organizations. But if you're hoping that your money stays here, we know that the Community Foundation is gonna keep that money in Kansas County. Whereas with Red Cross, I don't know what their process is. I don't know who they write the checks to. Here, we play a part in making the decisions of, we need that money to go here. There was some money left over in the, after the Raymond train derailment one. And I believe it went towards purchasing, I think, a new ambulance afterwards, because it's like, the committee got together and it's like, okay, these funds, what can we do to mitigate and help in the future? And it just was a logical process, whereas the Red Cross, I'm not sure how that works. So I'm not trying to say that those are bad organizations to donate to whatsoever. I just know that for us, this is a trusted source, and we appreciate all the work that they do for us.
So Ace, what's next? What's within this process? I assume that there are going to be evaluation teams coming out, that type of thing. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, we did some preliminary drive-throughs and stuff. We have a conference call tomorrow with state. We'll be starting some of those meetings with state and federal partners. We may end up setting up a MARC, a multi-agency resource center, where different organizations can come, kind of a one-stop shop. So if somebody had flood damage, they can come in, talk to somebody from Red Cross or Public Health or Salvation Army, Wilmer Area Community Foundation. So we're kind of just going through the process right now. We're reaching out to all the townships, all the cities, finding out what their damages are, gathering that information so we can bring that all together. And then eventually FEMA will come out and it's not just that they have a blank check blank and they're like, oh, here's some money. No, you got to work for it and prove this and receipts. And it's like, it's kind of a tedious process. But I mean, the tax dollars that we pay to those organizations, we might as well try to get those tax dollars back here. So that's kind of our current process.
Commissioner Emdek.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I received a phone call today from Chuck Ackman, who is one of the state directors for Senator Klobuchar's office. And he encouraged us and emphasized that we should really make sure, and FEMA will only cover, and some of the state funds will only recover uninsured public losses. So our roads that are not insured, so it won't help with the carpeting and probably won't help with the stove and that kind of stuff. But he said the totality of the damage, and Kansas County alone sounds like we have enough damage to qualify at the state level, but if there's any FEMA dollars that remain in existence during the current administration, we need a totality. So like if there's a loss in Big Stone County at Ortonville, and I'm sure you're in contact, like City of Raymond and City of Wilmer, it's really important that all those public losses be totaled up. Maybe Swift County has them too, because there's a threshold that would need to be reached in order for the state to designate. So
Right.
Thanks for doing all that work and making sure, I think you call it MARCs?
Well, the MARC is that multi-agency
Yeah.
response center. We haven't decided for sure if we're doing that right now. We want to find out what the processes are and if it's needed. Fortunately, when the Red Cross came out, they didn't see a lot of the basements with the 18 inches of rain and stuff like that. So we held off on sending out their major damage assessment teams because we think that, you know, other processes and wanting to see what the state says. But we have a lot going on too. People are still cleaning out. We keep watching the skies, hoping it's not gonna rain more. Again, waiting for some of the water to recede. So it's kind of a long process that we've just started, so.
Commissioner Berg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As we all know, our most important priorities are citizens, our businesses, and the county itself. But talking about the county, and I know you're continuing to do assessments. Has there been much damage to the county's properties and the roads and the parks? And can you just give an update on that? And then also, you're talking about the thresholds. Do you, off the top of your head, happen to have the thresholds that we have to come up with for FEMA and for the state?
Yeah, the state of Minnesota threshold is $103,207.52. The federal number for Kanawha County, and this gets changed every year, is $206,415.04. I know Mel did some initial road stuff, and we were looking at over $400,000, so that almost doubles what we need for some of those thresholds. And then we have to add, you know, all the other, you know, the Raymond Golf Course is a city-owned thing, so that qualifies as well. So all of those things, but we don't have all those numbers yet, so.
Well, thank you for that update, and I'd like to thank everyone in this response. It sounded very positive that we were out there. I want to thank you, Emergency Management, and the Olden Group, and our management team, and well done. But it sounds like there's a lot of work to do yet.
Right, thank you.
Commissioner Imdeck?
Yeah, and in that totality of damages, he said even NOAA, National Organization Atmospheric Oceanic, or whatever that stands for, gets involved, because whatever damage happened in the same weather incident, even if it was a county, 2 counties away, can qualify for that totality. You know, like last night, was it last night's damage at Big Lake, and we're up, that probably would be a hell of a stretch to go 3 days away, 4 days
Yeah,
later. But
NOAA and stuff, they have
certainly
certain
big
criteria
storm
on
counties.
how long it has to stop raining in between to be considered a different storm cell and stuff like that. And those are just some of the pieces of the puzzle that we have to figure out and get the state and federal partners, and then they fight over it, and so we'll
Right,
get there.
I think it was back in 2022 when we had those 2 storms in May. They were categorized as 2 separate storms by the state and FEMA, and so where ACE is kind of going is we're still really doing a lot of the assessment work. Mel and his team, I applaud them. ACE, they were out Friday night, they were out all day Saturday for about 8, 9, 10 hours probably, assessing the roads, parks, all of the infrastructure. And so I think we can provide more of a report and dollar amount when we get all of that information. Maybe at the next meeting, we'll kind of work on that. But we're still really in the assessment stage, and so our initial number is around that 400,000. So that is why we just brought Chair Gardner in the loop so that we could declare that emergency, so that we could get the dollars rolling, because then we can account for payroll reimbursements, we can account for all of that starting that 13th. And so that really just is the note to the state and the federal FEMA for us to get that ball rolling, to look for reimbursements on, and to be accounted for those assessments that we're doing. So I think the 3 of us will connect after today, and we'll continue doing those assessments, and we can provide an update at a later date.
Mr. Chair, I'd move on resolution 2025-21.
Thank you. Commissioner Imdeck moves the resolution. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Dwayne Anderson seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Ace, thank you.
Thank you.
Keep up the pile of work.
It's just an update.
Yep, I have that. At this time, then, we have a grant update from Community Corrections Director, Dr. Tammy Jo Liebert. Tammy Jo, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I have just a really quick update for some grants. I will be back actually in a couple weeks to talk more in depth about Probation and Parole Officer Week and then some department updates. But we, in our department, we've applied for one grant and we're applying for 2 more grants in the next 2 weeks. We do not need a board letter at this time, but we just wanted to let the board know that we are applying for the grants. And just kind of give you just a quick update. And the state prevention grants utilizing evidence-based practices. One of them, we're gonna apply under a juvenile intervention grant and the other one will be on the adult side. Both of them will look at evidence-based practices in community corrections using a variety of different things. And some of the things we're looking at incorporating into those grants are using adding like a life skills component of resume building, job applications, interview skills into our community work service program that, we're already working on job-related skills with our juveniles and our adults in that program. The other side of it is we're currently one of this grant, we actually have it currently right now in 24 and 25. We're actually asking for an extension in 26 and 27. It currently funds a facilitator. We currently have 7 cognitive behavioral groups running out of our office each week. Those groups require 2 probation officers, plus we do rides and there's coordination and all of those different things. This grant right now assists us with 1 part-time facilitator. We are going to ask to continue that part-time facilitator, but also ask for a coordinator position in the grant to help us with coordinating some of those extra nuts and bolts and things that it takes to run the grants that we're doing. It also includes extra evidence-based practice training that we've been taking advantage of throughout this year. And it includes some extra things that we wouldn't be able to do typically, such as emergency housing vouchers and emergency transportation vouchers. And so we have some emergency food vouchers and things. In particular, we use those for cases like if somebody gets released from jail at 4:30 on a Friday, like we had last Friday. Actually happens quite often at 4:30 on a Friday. And they have nowhere to go. And we have to figure it out at 4:30 on a Friday. Sometimes that might be in the dead of winter. And so we're using those types of emergency interventions when nobody else is open that we can actually have access to them in our office. We also have some of those transportation or incentive vouchers allow for some of our clients that can't get to and from their probation appointments. We can help them with some gas vouchers if they have vehicles or transportation so that they can make to their appointments. So these grants are allowing us to do a variety of different things, helping them to get through their programming that helps them in the long run protect and for us to address public safety.
And so we're going to get a request for a letter of support on this at some future date?
We do not need a letter of support. I just wanted to let you know. I'm just giving you an update. And as part of that, and actually I just wanted to also share this, which is kind of interesting because it came up today. And so I brought a show and tell. We were actually part of a project that actually Ralph brought to us over there, but it was from Crossroads. The church gave us a loom. And when people are dealing with difficult conversations, right? Crisis situations, when they're having difficult conversations, a lot of times it's easier to talk when they're doing something, right? That's why play therapy with kids works and different things. And so when a probation officer is talking to somebody and they're having a difficult conversation, sometimes if they have an activity, it helps. Or during our groups, if they have an activity, it helps. Or a variety of different things. So they gave us a loom that we can use plastic grocery bags to create
My
mats to donate. And aren't they pretty? So I just wanted to share. So you can donate, so that we can donate these either to a variety of missions or homeless or a variety of different things. And it gets the plastic bags out of the community, out of the environment. It allows our clients to give back and do something constructive, but it also gives them the opportunity to have something to do. And so I just wanted to share something kind of neat and unique that we're starting. You can come see our loom in our office if you want. So.
Any questions
Out of
for,
grocery bags, who'd have thought?
any questions for Director Labor? All
So-
right, well, that's interesting. I wondered if those were plastic shopping bags.
Yes, so if you have plastic shopping bags, you can donate them to my office now, because we will use them now to make these mats.
Oh, I can help you with that.
Yes.
All right. Any questions? All
Thank
right,
you.
well, thank you very much. Thanks for the update. At this time, we'll have zoning administrator Eric Van Dyken present to us a planning commission recommendation. Eric, good afternoon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Eric Van Dyken, County Zoning Administrator, here today with a single request from the Planning Commission meeting of June 9th. It was a pretty short meeting, and it had a single request from Michaels Road and Stone. The proposal from Michaels Road and Stone is a temporary concrete batch plant. This will be to be located in an existing Dunick Incorporated gravel pit. It'll be in the southeast quadrant of the intersection of Highway 23 and County Road 9, an existing gravel pit behind the poultry facility there. The batch plant would be for Trunk Highway 23 reconstruction project that will take place over through parts of this year and into 2026. So the requested length of the permit would be for till the end of 2026. And in the attached 6 conditions, you'll see condition number 6 does set the timeline at 2026 as an end date for that. With the conditions you see there and the recommended findings, staff recommends approval.
Mr. Chair, I move on the planning commission's recommendation citing the findings and conditions.
Commissioner Imdeck moves the recommendation of the planning commission. Is there a second?
Mr. Chair, I'll second that.
Commissioner Berg seconds. Discussion. Pretty routine matter, and the planning commission saw it that way as well. All right, very good. Hearing no further questions, all in favor of the recommendation signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, Administrator Baker will present to us a report and a resolution to follow.
Good afternoon, Kelsey Baker, Candioi County Administrator. Before you today, I have requesting approval for Resolution 2025-18 for the 2024 Performance Measure Report. This is something that we have been doing since 2011. It helps us increase our aid payments that we get from the state. A lot of counties do this. You have to pick out of all of the categories which are included that we measure upon. You have to pick 10 out of those items. And then listed before you today is public safety, public works, public health, social services, records, valuation, assessments, elections. We did something different. We added parks and libraries this year because we were unable to get the veterans information due to some federal cuts. And then budget, financial, and environment. And so I would ask that you approve that resolution so that we could submit this report and resolution to the state. It needs to be submitted by July 1.
So the request is for approval of Resolution 2025-18, 2024 Performance Measurement Report. Before I ask for a motion, are there any questions for the administrator? Again, as you said, Commissioner Berg.
Just some comments, I guess. I enjoy every year looking at these and having all the numbers together in one spot. Even for the public to look at all the different things that we touch as a county board and the impact, the large number of latex paint, 5,000 gallons, almost 6,000 gallons of latex paint, recycled or taken care of, or the number of people at the parks and so forth for the year. So it's very interesting information. It's good to do this. Besides, financially, it's a plus, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Yep.
I think the one that stuck out for me was under the very first one under public safety, where Group A and B crime rates, serious crimes, are considerably down as as it relates to our sheriff's office. And maybe we'll hear something about that at a future time from the sheriff, and I would assume he'll have some sort of a report. Are there any other questions or comments on this? Commissioner Index?
Just one, Mr. Chair. It's just a clerical thing. I think Resolution 2025-18 was the executive order over the weekend, so we would have two of them of the same number, so.
And we have had that before. 18, they're for more of our internal use. They're not standard resolution numbers, so Melissa noted that in our resolution book that we have.
Okay. Thank you for that, and I would entertain a motion. Commissioner Dale Anderson.
Mr. Chair, I'll move on 2025-18.
We have a motion to approve the resolution. Is there a second? Chair
I'll
will
second that.
Oh,
You can go.
Chair seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. Thank you. Next item, Administrator Baker has as well. This is the request for approval of the employee handbook and the acceptable use of technology policy.
So yes, so again, Kelsey Baker, Candioi County Administrator. As Commissioner Gardner said, we have the employee handbook and the acceptable use before you today asking for approval. As you know, I created a policy committee to gather some department heads and elected officials to review the policies that we have. And so we're working our way through those. And as Katie Zemer, our new HR director, started in February, I'd asked her to review the employee handbook. And these were just, so I'll start with the employee handbook first, sorry. It was included in the board packet, the edits and the changes that are made are in red. And so there weren't a lot of changes. I'm not gonna go through them, but did you have any questions on any of the handbook changes? A lot of them were just clarification.
Yeah.
Commissioner Berg.
Sorry.
Well, almost the same thing again. I really like this presentation as well. Dealing with handbooks, they can get pretty detailed going through and finding out and where they're highlighted. I really liked the way it was presented. I know on some other committees I've been on and similar things, and you can spend a large amount of time going through an extensive handbook, and it was well laid out, and the things in red that you pointed out were very easy to follow and very understandable. So,
Good.
well prepared by
The only
staff.
thing I would note is that we are adding more tobacco language, and that is on the last page, in that last paragraph. Is that we
sure.
added, that was all new information, just to create it more of a little bit. Some counties have a separate, complete separate tobacco license. We felt that it could fit underneath our handbook. And so, the committee's recommendation is to approve the employee handbook.
And all of these are just more or less clerical updates and language clarifications because things have maybe changed since the last session of the legislature, that type of thing?
Well, no.
Okay.
No. Some of the language was, like you said, was clarification regarding break times. We had a wrong year in there. Moved to a different section. Like I said, took out the 2024 language. If you look on the second page, it removed, we added ESST language in there. And so really, this was just more clarification and changing around some formatting for the employee handbook.
Go ahead.
And I think we can do these in one vote. And so the acceptable usage of technology, I didn't go into detail with this one because this is really totally revamped. We hadn't updated this policy. It was originally adopted in 2005, and I cannot find that the board adopted it since then. There were some maybe minor changes that we had worked on, but the fully being adopted by the board was 2005. And so this was really, it had, CD-ROMs, language in there, VHSs, I think, was in there. And so this was really just updating all of that information. But really, the overall impact of this policy is that any owned or county-owned device, technology, software is county property. And so we all have, a lot of us have county phones, we use our emails. So that means that if we needed to get in and review a staff's emails, review their web history, that the employer, county, has that authority to do so, and just to be respectful of it. And I think we have some, I think Scott did, he is the author of this, he did a really good job on laying out, like, you know, if you use your county email, that's okay, but how often are you using it? We know people probably peruse the internet probably for personal use, but it's this policy is a reminder that when you're using a county device, it is not your personal device. And so I think this is always a good one to review, so I'm glad this one is getting to the board for final approval. Do you have any questions?
Any questions for Administrator Baker?
I would also include, the policy committee meets quarterly, so we just met in May. And so then we'll meet 2 more times this year and we'll review more policies. And so you'll be seeing more policies come to board if they're completely outdated or maybe some minor updates. If not, the committee will hopefully we'll get to an annual review process.
All right, any questions? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the Candido County Employee Handbook and the acceptable use of technology policy.
Mr. Chair, I so move.
Commissioner Berg moves. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Commissioner Dwayne Anderson seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. At this time, we'll have several items, more than several, from County Engineer, Public Works Director Mel Odens. Mel, good afternoon.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, yeah, there are a few items. I'm Mel Odens, County Engineer. We'll just start with the first one, and it's the bid award of the Diamond Lake boat access on the west side by the campground. We were able to secure funds from the DNR to fund 50% of that. And so we worked last year and this spring to put the plans together. And we put the bids out this spring, and how many bids we get? Oh, I'm sorry, the first one's the co-op agreement. Oh, no, it's the bid award.
Right.
You're good.
You're good, yeah.
7.
It's the time of the board meeting.
Honestly, I'm saying good morning to everybody and everything. So bids received on June 2nd. We had 7 bidders. We had a lot of response to this. We had an estimate of $404,000. The lowest bid came in at $460,502.91, which was over our estimate. But on small projects like this, the bituminous, quite honestly, is the driver on these. There wasn't a lot of material other than, there's some gravel and dirt and then some paving. And then there also was some special trench soil work where the water quality pond, if you will, is in the middle. But this was covered with levy dollars and DNR funds, so which is fortunate. We have a good relationship with the DNR. So it's my recommendation to award SAP 034-599-0042 to Brower Construction Limited of Raymond, Minnesota, in the amount of $460,502.91.
For the recommendation of the engineer, is there a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve the recommendation. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. And you have 5 more of these.
Well, now we'll get to the payment of the co-op agreement with the DNR to pay for 50% of that access. So what you have before you is a co-op agreement with the DNR, with the state of Minnesota. And basically what the co-op agreement says is that We will do this project in the next 2 years. We will maintain it. They will, once it's improved. And there really isn't much more than that, other than about 10 pages of agreement. One of the things that I would like to note is under E on one of these is part of our seeding has to be pollinator habitat. So there is going to be a little bit of that out there in case you see some pollinator habitat. But with that, Mr. Chair, I would recommend to pass resolution 2025-19 and authorize the chair and administrator to sign on behalf of the county.
You've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to pass Resolution 2025-19.
And is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. And any discussion? I did see that piece in there about the pollinator planting, so I was always happy to see that. All right, anything?
I just want to question about that. So that pollinator seed, how long do we have to maintain it? I mean, because, you know,
It
things
takes
die
2
and.
to 3 years, yeah.
Okay.
It's a 3-year reoccurrence, so we have to watch that.
Okay, to get it established.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it, you know, we did some at the entrance to the park as well through the soil and water, but it always, I always caution people, it always looks messy for a few years. And then quite honestly, it looks messy, maybe, it looks natural. Okay, so it looks like a natural grass field, you know, so it's not prim and proper, but we will have some perimeter on that.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to move on Resolution 2025-19. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. And then this next one is another bid award. This is going to bring a smile to several of us up here, the LED stop signs and rumble strips.
Yeah, so in the safety money released this year, LED stop signs were able to be applied for. And so what we did is we did apply to do, in our case, 12 additional intersections with LED stop signs. And then we added 2 spots with rumble strips ahead of the LED stop signs. We were noticing that rumble strips were good, but it seems like we're getting a lot of positive feedback on the LED stop signs. The only thing that we will caution, you know, because we don't want LED stop signs at every intersection, because then it reduces the effectiveness. But I do feel, and when we met with both the sheriff's office and our safety people, the intersections that we have in here were the intersections that appeared to be maybe the most frequently accidents or most frequently run, where we get complaints of people running these intersections. And a lot of them is up in the northwest part of the county, and a lot of that we feel is because it's open, it's flat, and nothing looks like you should stop. It's just a wide open area, and so people don't stop. And so this will, just anything to get their attention. So we did apply for money. We got 90% of the project covered with safety dollars, federal safety dollars. And so we're gonna do these intersection, and it's my recommendation to award the contract to Safety Signs of Lakeville, Minnesota in the amount of $52,990.
For the recommendation, is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, also moved.
A motion by Commissioner Dale Anderson. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Commissioner Imdex seconds. Any discussion? All right, hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Next item, wet reflective grooved-in edge lines.
Once again, this is another federal safety project, that another solicitation that we do, and you'll notice, and we had it on the road tour, I believe it was last year, where we looked at the grooved-in wet reflective. Universally in the whole state of Minnesota, I think, quite honestly, in the nation, this has been a very effective, positive thing. So we're doing 20, 30 miles every year. So the map is in your packet, but it's my recommendation to award the bid to Sir Lancelot out of Edina, Minnesota in the amount of $202,391.30.
You've heard the recommendation. Is there,
I'll move on that, Mr. Chair.
thank you, Commissioner Imdak. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Commissioner Anderson, thank you. Discussion.
I have a question. Like we do with the townships on a bituminous, do we invite them to put in set miles of road for the wet? Maybe they're not doing the grooved in.
You know, we never have. There's a limited amount of funds and a limited amount, not that we wouldn't want to maybe share some of that, but if we put it in, they would take money that we would take to put on our roads. So it would have to be their own or their own application.
But I think with the bituminous, we let them add their request onto our
Oh,
bid.
correct.
That's what I'm
Yes,
talking.
I gotcha. So they would do but we bid it for them. I mean, I can certainly look into that, but I'm just thinking that if we bid their striping, we would only get, in this case, 202,000, and part of that would be theirs. You know what I mean?
I've noticed that, especially in New London Township, whoever they're hiring, it lasts about 2 years and it's gone.
Yeah, that's probably a latex. No.
And I note that 90% of the funds here are Highway Safety Improvement Program funds.
Correct.
And there's some state aid, and the rest of it is local levy, so pretty good bang for the buck.
Right, yep. It's a good way to leverage our local dollars.
Okay. Are there any other questions? All right, and we have a motion and a second already, yes? All right. All in favor of awarding the bid signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. And then we have another resolution. Mel?
Yeah, this is Resolution 2025-20. It's a deed restriction for Big Candy East. And you may recall that we did 2 camper cabins, a bath house trailer, a fishing pier, a floating dock, and a 45-foot wheel dock out at Big Candy East. When you get the money, they want you, if they're going to give you money, they want to make sure you use it as some kind of a recreational place in perpetuity. And I think that's the risk we all knew when we get money, that this will be a park, forever. And I think there's some discussion, so it locks it up as a park. If the state's going to give you money and the state's going to do fishing piers and docks, they want you to not just get rid of the park. So this is a deed restriction. And what I think we would like to do is in July, the state's going to come out and do a final inspection. And what my assistant and I were talking about today, maybe at the July Road and Bridge meeting, we could do a PowerPoint summary of what this all entailed. And so I won't go into any detail at this time, unless you want me to. But so it's my recommendation to pass Resolution 2025-20, placing this deed restriction on that park and authorize the chair to sign and the administrator to sign on behalf of the county.
For the recommendation, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to pass Resolution 2025-20.
Is there a second?
Mr. Chair, I'll second that.
Commissioner Berg, thank you. Any discussion? Dale?
So what does happen if we absolutely do have to close that park at some point in time? I mean, if we're gonna be losing money and losing money and losing money on it at some point in time, I don't think that's good for our taxpayer dollars. Then what happens with that if this is passed?
I haven't read through all the details, but I think that is the risk you run when you want to do something with the state. You may need to, you could reduce it maybe to not lose money, like not have a bunch of camping, for instance. Or, you could, it's a lake, so you're gonna have the fishing pier and
Right.
the docks and the things. So
Just be
to me,
locked
that's a low risk
You'd just
on
be
that.
locked into that part of it.
Yes, yep.
Mr. Chair, I think we also have other agreements with the DNR with that park and maybe other parks that that we have to have it open to the public. So even if we close it for camping or whatever, we'd have to keep it open somehow to the public.
That's,
That's
yeah,
just my
that
thing.
spot where the store was owned by the DNR. So we've had a long-standing relationship with the DNR at Big Candy East.
East. I don't, 1, 2, 3, but
All right, any other questions? We have a motion and a second to move on Resolution 2025-20. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. And I think we're coming to the end of your stuff here.
right, so we
bid
work.
award.
Yes, Mr. Chair. The last one is one that we work with, this is an example of being the fiscal agent for a township. And Dover Township has been trying to redo Long Lake Road. It's about a 2.5 mile piece of road right north of 25 up to 27. And they were able to secure an LRIP, the Local Road Improvement Program, money for 1.2 million. I think it's 1.25 million. And so we worked with them on developing the plans. We worked with them on getting it through the state aid process. And we opened bids for them on June 2nd. There was 3 bidders. Donick Incorporated of Prindsburg was read low. And it's my recommendation to award SAP 34-592-005 to Donick Incorporated in the amount of $2,222,677.12.
Further recommendation, is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I so moved.
We have a motion, is there a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chair. Oops, sorry.
Go ahead.
All right, thank you. Is there any discussion?
I have a question.
Commissioner Imdak?
So we put county staff time in that. Is that part of the expense that,
We have not, we generally don't bill them back.
And the township has already passed a motion to award the contract as well, so this just gets everything moving.
Correct. So the next step that they'll need to do now is they'll submit it to the state for grant approval, and then once the grant is signed and authorized, the state will give them an authorization letter to proceed with notice to proceed. So,
so that,
Commissioner Imdak?
essentially they have to come up with about $1 million
yep, yep,
from their funds?
yep,
And there's no county levy dollars going?
there's
into this?
none. We have no fiscal obligation to this. The only thing that we have an obligation to is to make sure that the monies get spent and executed correctly.
Outstanding. We have a motion and a second to award the bid for Long Lake Road rehabilitation in Dover Township. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
We are at administrative updates, appointments, et cetera. At this time, we'll introduce a no-wake zone resolution, 2025-22. And you can stay right here if you'd rather.
So I heard from 3 commissioners regarding this, and then the 4th this afternoon regarding lakes and the amount of water that we're having and with the increased amount of rainfall. And so in talking with the sheriff, we don't have a county ordinance that we have that gives the sheriff maybe the authority to do a no-wake zone. And so it does fall underneath the county board per statute 86B.201 subdivision 9. And so you have before you Resolution 2025-2022 that would enact 150 feet from shore for all bodies of water within Candioi County, a no-wake zone starting today, June 18th, or starting tomorrow, sorry, June 18th, until midnight, June 25th, 2025. 1 week, just for people to raise their docks, get prepared, things like that. We potentially could have more rain later on this week. And if we do need to revisit anything, the board meets then July 1. we hope we don't have to do anything because of the July 4th holiday weekend. So we're hoping that this 1 week effect will meet all of those needs. And then I will continue to look into to see if the county should create an ordinance. I was talking with some commissioners earlier today, and so I want to meet with the county attorney and the sheriff regarding which direction would be best for the county if we were to create an ordinance or not. But before you today, I would be asking approval on the resolution for a no-wake zone on all Candioi County bodies of water effective June 18th until midnight of June 25th, 2025.
For the request of the administrator to move on Resolution 2025-22, is there a motion?
I would move on resolution 2025-22.
Commissioner Imdeck, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Berg, thank you so much. I just wanted to mention that this was brought to my attention, and I forwarded it on to Kelsey, and she took it to her team. But I wanted to thank Councilmember Tom Gilbertson from the Wilmer City Council for bringing up the question in the first place. So, Tom, thank you for that. Are there any questions? Commissioner Imdeck.
Not a question, more of a comment for the public. This is really a very minimal no-wake restriction of 1 week. We could have gone 300 or 500 feet from shore. I think 300, given some of the body water and the reactions that I'm getting from lakeshore associations, would have been a little more in line, but 150 feet is something. So it only lasts a week. It should be over with, but we would have to do another one in order to extend it beyond 1 week. So we should be good for the 4th of July unless we are forced to do another one.
All right. Anyone else? All right, we have a motion and a second to move on Resolution 2025-22. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Next item, Kelsey, you'll take us through this one. This is in reference to voting delegates for NACO.
Yes, so my apologies to not adding this to the agenda, but we do have two commissioners that are attending the NACO Summer Conference, Dwayne Anderson and Roger Imdike. And so in order for Candioi County to vote, we need to have the board vote on the primary voting delegate. I would recommend Roger Imdike to either vote or proxy. So then I would submit that information to NACO.
All right, you've heard the recommendation of the administrator. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to have Commissioner Imdek be the voting delegate for NACO.
The chair will second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. A couple of things under the appointments and administrative updates, so on and so forth. Tuesday, July 1, we're going to have a space study work session with Wold Architects following our board meeting. Are we just going to be going right from the board meeting into that, or?
We'll probably order a lunch and have it following the board meeting. I don't know, we typically have a lighter agenda that meeting, but I'll keep you all posted, but it will be following the meeting with a recess in between.
All right, so that is for the information of commissioners and, of course, our friends in the media. I have one item here as well. This is a request to appoint Shelley Gazy to the Candioi County Housing and Redevelopment Authority Board of Commissioners. This is an opening that needs to be filled by a member of the public. This is the recommendation coming from the HRA administrator. Are there any questions? I would move the appointment of Shelley Gazy to the Candioi County HRA.
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Imdek seconds. Thank you. Any questions, discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. We will be in recess for about 8 minutes. Is that, it says recess. Are we going to, okay. We'll have a brief recess. Candido County Board of Commissioners is back from recess. At this time, we are going to consider approving going into closed session for a real property discussion pursuant to Minnesota Statute 13D.05, Subdivision 3, discussing a property for county options at 14998 Highway 71 Northeast, New London, Minnesota, 56273. Is there a motion to move us into closed session?
Mr. Chair, I so move.
Commissioner Dale Anderson moves. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Commissioner Dwayne Anderson seconds. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. And we will recess into the, yes?
Nope, I think we'll just wait for IT to start streaming. Or pull us off from streaming.
Okay. All right, lights out.
present Resolution 2025-20, Big Candiyogi Lake County Park East deed restriction for the executed DNR.
It's a minutes, isn't it?
One moment, I guess.
Yeah, it takes that.
All right, we'll try that again. The Candy Ojai County Board is back out of closed session, and we are back in our regular session. At this time, we will have a presentation from Environmental Services Director Gary Gear as this relates to the item that we've been discussing in closed session. Gary?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, Gary Gear, Candido County Environmental Services Director. And I believe, yes, you have that in front of you. And it's just a two-page slide, kind of trying to recap what our discussion has been and information that the board has been made available to you all to make a decision on this matter. And it is regarding the purchase of parcels number 23-024-0060 and 23-025-0046. It's a parcel, two parcels of land immediately adjacent to and on the south side of the current landfill property.
Gary, I'm just gonna do, I've been informed that I need to kind of summarize what we talked about in closed session. So the property that we referenced earlier at 14988 Highway 71 Northeast in New London, as Gary was just indicating, is adjacent to the Candido County landfill. And we have been talking about developing an offer for that property. Is that good enough for now? Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And, excuse me, the information or the interest in the Candido County Landfill Environmental Services staff to look into this parcel sale when it became available was to limit future development around the landfill. You don't know how land could potentially be subdivided in the private entity, so that would be one thing, and that's something that we would not want to happen, is to have additional neighbors around the landfill facility. It extends the facility's groundwater compliance boundary, which is equivalent to our property line, but that's a significant factor in what monitoring we ultimately have to do. So adjusting our compliance boundary is a significant favorable thing to have occur. We gain control over potential future environmental liabilities. It also increases, or I shouldn't say increases, changes what monitoring requirements we would be required to do through the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency and our permit for the landfill itself. So having a handle on that with greater acquisition or land acreage gives us a better position for future environmental liabilities. And cost savings then associated with that and liability reduction on page 2, we would be able to use non-invasive survey techniques to explore the extent and depth of potential contamination. So unlike the plume that was to the northwest of the landfill when we had to do significant monitoring wells throughout kind of a grid location, there's more current technologies available to capture that type of data with a lot less dollars being spent. It gains us time and space to research and implement remedial action and assess natural attenuation. That's something else the board considered too, with attenuation being within the soil and not actually transporting pollutants off-site. So, and it avoids up to $7 million in source removal costs and up to $4.4 million in off-site plume delineation costs. So whenever we can maintain, again, changing that compliance boundary to our property line, and then that lets us not have to do the more intensive monitoring off-site. So those are the significant savings that came to our attention that were much greater than the cost of the purchase of the property, even though the purchase of the property is a significant number. And that's why we ultimately came to the board to ponder this question.
And Gary, this is not being looked at as an expansion of the landfill. We don't need to expand the landfill. What we're trying to do is control that property because there might be some adverse effects from the landfill, correct?
Correct, that is correct, all correct.
And if we don't control that property, then it becomes a potential big liability if there are some of those adverse effects. And then, of course, if we don't control it, then the monitoring is much more severe and much more costly.
Correct.
Okay. Where are we at, I guess? So at this time, then, there has been an offer developed. Administrator Baker, would you kind of take us through that?
So we have worked with the sellers and have come to an agreement on a price. And to present that purchase agreement would be at the July 1st board meeting. But to hold that price in place, I would ask that the board authorize myself, the administrator, to sign on behalf of the county contingent upon county board approval for the final purchase agreement at the July 1st meeting. So we're not asking to sign the purchase agreement tonight or tomorrow. That would be at the regular scheduled July 1st meeting, but it would authorize me to sign that purchase agreement to lock in that price and to give the sellers some commitment that we are interested.
So the contingency then is that we give that final board approval at our next meeting.
It would go to vote at the July 1st meeting.
Okay. Are you,
So this,
go ahead.
so can we talk about price then? What was the original price and where we're at now?
Oh, yes, sorry.
Yeah. I'd like to know.
Probably thinking in my head, sorry. So the original asking price was 2.8. We did come back, or we did initially offer 2.3. We settled on 2.5. So the 2.5 price would be in the purchase agreement. That would be, if the board authorized me to initial. And then that price would be in the purchase agreement included in your board packet at the July 1st meeting that would go to vote.
Commissioner Imdek.
Okay, is it tonight or is it at that meeting where we deliberate as to whether or not we should go forward with the purchase?
We would be deliberating going forward with the purchase at our following meeting.
That's correct. The basic idea here was to lock in the seller or the owners of the property from selling to another party. So, but also not to just discuss all right in this single meeting. Gives time to reflect, organize thoughts,
Comments, and I think,
comments, and come into the next board meeting and have that full discussion before the board decides whether it does or does not want to approve the purchase.
so if you, sorry, go ahead.
Roger?
So there are a number of questions that I'm sure all of us have before we would go forward on the July 1st meeting in July to approve the purchase. I get the holding of the, securing the property with a contract or something. But at what point do we, because it could be fairly, fair amount of time, fair amount of deliberation, because, we have a lot of questions. We asked some questions last time. But for example, have we looked at ways to mitigate? Are there resources available from the state for a plume like this and ways of mitigating it? Or is it all on us?
I believe it would be on us. We would be working together with them to agree upon mitigation or what monitoring requirements, but ultimately it's them
I'm thinking of something like the super fund, if it even exists anymore.
yeah, I don't believe it exists anymore.
Mr. Chair. So my experience with going to AMC meetings, I'm on that Environment Natural Resources Committee. Renville County's had issues and other counties have had issues with their landfills and having to drill monitoring wells for PFAS and different things. And the state is not coming up with any money. And right now, at this point, I think it's all on the counties to pay for that. So if you can mitigate that sort of issue, it's, or, you know, if you can kind of prolong that or come up with other solutions, I think you're saving money.
Commissioner Dale Anderson and then Commissioner Berg.
Well, I'm just gonna move the process ahead here. I'm gonna make a motion to approve Kelsey to sign the purchase agreement or whatever she needs to sign and with the vote on the July 1st meeting.
Contingent upon. final-
Contingent, yep.
All right. We have a motion to authorize the administrator to sign a purchase agreement with the contingency that final board approval would be pending at our next meeting. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
We have a motion and a second discussion. Commissioner Berg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And yeah, I think we do have to get in some discussion here because this is a major situation. Can you share or where would the dollars come out of our budget?
Yep. So I'm just gonna take this off because I do have this ready. I didn't want to share my screen. So we have our fund balance and we have our landfill reserves. That account, they don't count towards our general fund reserves and they don't count towards our overall budget. And so our landfill reserves have been historically used to offset our overall levy. We've typically used around $300,000 to $600,000 out of the landfill reserves to offset the levy. But those dollars don't affect the overall budget. We also have what's called the long-term care fund, which is required if counties have a landfill that is dollars in place to whenever the counties close the landfill, you would use those dollars to close the entirety of the landfill. And so with the 2.5, and speaking with our CFO, Karen Anderson, we would do half of each. We would recommend using half of our reserves within our landfill and then half of the other remaining dollars from the long-term care fund. And so it wouldn't complete those landfill reserves. We have an abundance of landfill reserves. And so we feel very comfortable with utilizing those dollars. We have those dollars in place. They are taxpayer dollars. And so we do feel that using those funds to purchase this property is good use of the taxpayer dollars.
And there's one of these that, one of the two that has to be paid back, yes?
Correct. The long-term care trust fund does have to be paid back over time. And that is something that Gary and his staff would work through that with the MPCA and document that.
Commissioner Imdek.
Thank you. So how much is in the landfill reserves? And the long-term care? Long-term care, I guess, is irrelevant. What's in there has to go back in, whatever we take out, but how much is in the landfill reserves?
Notebook is over there.
You want me to ask? It's approximately 10 million in each.
In each. So if we took out the entire amount out of landfill reserves, we'd still have a very healthy reserve there.
It's right under 10 million for the landfill reserves, and it's a little above 10 million for the long-term care trust fund. I would have all of that information ready to go, but it is right under 10 for landfill reserves, and then 10 for a little above for the long-term care trust fund.
Commissioner Berg.
Needless to say, we're all well aware this is not a perfect timing for something like this, not even close, financially to dig into the reserves like this. On the other hand, it looks like it's even more than a proactive movement. It's something we have to do. And part of me is thinking that, you know, down the road, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, the county board then might be happy that we took some action, and we don't know.
Commissioner Imdek.
So the long-term, let me go back to landfill reserves. Those are dollars that, did I hear you say they're not levy dollars? Is that revenue we take in from our own and other funds? So, but the long-term care, if we take 1.25 million out of there, can that get paid back with the landfill reserves, or do we have to levy for that repair? Do we have to pay interest on that?
Yeah, that's a good question. We don't have to pay interest, and we could pay that fund back with our reserves. So what happened, this reserve count is an unrestricted that shows up on our audit. So we have a general fund, road and bridge, human services, and county building, all that go towards our fund balance analysis. The landfill reserves it counts on our audit, obviously in our months of coverage and things like that, but it doesn't count towards our fund balances at the end of the year. That's based off those 4 funds. And so, yes, we could pay the trust fund back with the landfill reserves, and it would be a 0 interest payment to set that up. And we could probably set that up internally within you, myself, and Karen with a document if we all got hit by a van, that this would be continued to be paid back.
Commissioner Imdek.
Thank you. And expanding on that question, so the 10 million, what do we take in per year? I have a couple of questions here. On the landfill reserves.
I don't,
It really fluctuates on the construction project for the year, you know, on how,
we could get that information for you.
Yeah,
But it's
I
gonna
don't
be a
wanna-
rough estimate.
yeah, I would,
I'm wondering, and Karen probably had a good reason for, it was Karen, right? Who did, she probably had a good reason for recommending half out of each, but I'm not seeing it.
That was my recommendation. It makes me feel a little bit comfortable because I listen to, that worst case scenario, that really rainy day, we have those funds available if needed. I've been directed to use reserves for one-time expenditures, and this is that case. That would be a one-time expenditure. However, when we have such healthy reserves in our landfill, you could argue both ways. This, to me, just makes me feel a little bit more comfortable. Essentially, yes, we would be paying those reserves back to the fund, but if something were to happen, we have that very healthy amount in the landfill reserves if we needed to use. And I think with where we're at, we came out very lucky with the state, but with these federal cuts and with future state and federal actions that could potentially be taken, I guess it just makes me feel a little bit more secure. And that was my justification to Karen. She thought about it for a couple weeks. She came back and said, I can agree with you. The same thing though, like I just said, if we do half out of each, essentially, if you did choose to just take it all out of reserves, it's a horse apiece of when you're pulling it from that account and when it would show on the audit. So I guess for me, it was just more to ease my own thought process and mind on the amount that we would have in the landfill reserves. But I will present both options as well.
So, I think I heard you say this in the beginning, the landfill reserves are not part of our 8.5 months of reserve, correct?
Correct.
So it's 8.5 months of reserve plus the nearly, give or take 10 million.
Correct. In our general fund, we have 61% of reserves. Our road and bridge, we have 68%, which is, sometimes road and bridge, that's not always accurate because of our state aid dollars and when the payments are dispersed. And then our human services fund, we have 52% in our county building, and that's fairly high. That is committed dollars towards building projects.
Like I said, thank you, Mr. Chair. Like I said, it's not necessarily a good time for something like this. On the other hand, it is really a good thing we do have healthy reserves, and it's not going to be put on the levy yet. And it looks like you're approaching it from the point of view that we would still have options. That's what you're trying to do, to divide it up. We could just take it out of one pot if we wanted to, going forward with this. I think I guess that's all what I have to say.
To your earlier comment that future board might look at what we are considering now if we go through with it as a good thing. And that's why we're considering it, not because we want a future board to be happy with us, but because we're trying to get ahead of potential issues and potential future liability for the, to the county. Would that be fair to say, Gary?
That's correct.
Commissioner Emdek?
I agree. It's fortunate we don't have to address the levy for this because of those reserves, but is it possible that the mitigation, because this thing is moving slowly and might hit another border in a period, it's moving how many feet per year?
We first picked it up in 2018 in our monitoring well on the landfill just south of the demo cell, which is about 250 feet. And it was, we believe in 2009 that product was first disposed of in the demolition cell. So in 9 years, it went approximately 250 feet. But we also hope to gain, that was kind of the attenuation in the soil as if we purchase this extra acreage and we learn more about how fast it's traveling, or whoa, it initially went 250 feet in 9 years, but now in the next 9 years, it's only gone 50 feet because it's getting dissolved, it's getting dispersed and then being held in check in the soil. So it's a hard one to answer but that's part of why we want to gain the extra space to provide for the monitoring and learn its patterns and tendencies.
Because something like this doesn't always move in a linear fashion.
Correct.
Roger?
But it, the potential exists that we may still end up doing the mitigation and the monitoring wells if it continues to move at the rate that it's at. And so I'm just saying that I think this is probably the right thing to do. However, it might not be the end all. Likely is not the end all.
Correct. I think from what we know now from state requirements, we do know that we wouldn't be held to the higher standard of multiple monitoring wells. So I'm wanting to be forthright in presenting accurate information to you that I believe the 4.4 would be savings, because we know that we're not going to be held to that higher standard of monitoring because we're still on site, because the compliance boundary has changed. So it will buy us time to potentially, push more detailed or more intrusive monitoring down the road.
Wouldn't we need some monitoring just to know how fast it's moving and where it's moving?
Yes, and that was what we mentioned a couple weeks ago. The more kind of, I think Ryan mentioned it almost as an MRI, it's magnetic surveying, that we can really get some significant data from in that $100,000 to $200,000 range instead of the 4.4 million range.
And that's really also what we're trying to get ahead of, besides the fact that we're considering, protecting the water, soil, everything else. We're also just kind of trying to, get ahead of that entire issue.
Correct.
Commissioner Berger?
Yeah, basically what everybody's saying, it boils down to a proactive and environmental move that we make this move at this point. And I think that's a big priority to protect our environment and our water and our creeks and. Okay.
But that'll be the topic of discussion at our July 1 meeting then, is to make the final decision as to whether or not to move forward with this. And I'm sure we'll have some more requests for data from you and, more information ahead of that meeting. And I'm sure we'll hear from folks, and if you can give us information that we can share, that we can explain when folks start calling us. That would be really helpful as well. So,
I was gonna go along the same lines that, you know, should we approve this at our next board meeting, would you be able to, ahead of time, give us sort of to the degree that you would know, the steps that happen after that? Okay, now we own the land, what now? And when?
Yes, we can put that information together.
Because we can't just ignore it, obviously, if it's a moving, if it's a moving target, we're gonna have to somehow, figure it out,
Yep.
you know, and hoping that it dissipates in the soil would be nice, but we can't count on that.
Exactly. Correct.
all right, we do have a motion and a second to authorize the administrator to move forward with signing the purchase agreement with the mentioned contingency. Does anyone else have anything that they wish to discuss before we move the question? All right, hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes, thank you, and that should be the end of our agenda for this. We will be having the Board of Appeal and Equalization meeting starting right at 6 o'clock. So with that, we will adjourn.